Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, I'm going to date stamp this. It's year 4, blog 6, or in legacy numbers, blog number 162. And today is the 30th of the 3rd, 2025, and that's quite a unique one in the calendar today, because today in the UK is Mother's Day, which, to be quite honest, is Mother's Day every day for me, as it always should be. And the clocks went forward. So when I needed to open the door for the nurses to come in, which would be any time from 7 o'clock, it was 6 o'clock this morning. Try telling that to your mother when she needs to go to bed at night. It wants to go as late as possible because she's not tired, she says. But that's another story. But what I usually do is I look out the window and it's a lovely day. It actually is sunny. It's a little bit cold. It's cold for my mother. The heater is on. But, you know, I'm hoping as we move forward now, it just gets warmer and warmer and there's less need for it, especially in these very tight times. And I'll talk a little bit more about my week later. It's been a bad week. I'll just tell you that from the start. It didn't start off well and didn't end well, to be quite honest. But we'll get the news out the way first, because I'm going to try and keep things as light-hearted as possible. But even the news is desperately sad. We start off with the war as always. I've written down my chicken scratch as fast as possible. Kiev accuses Russia of war crime after attack on military hospital in Kharkiv. President Zelensky says Europe must respond to daily Russian drone attacks. The drones struck military hospital, shopping centre and apartment blocks in Kharkiv, the second largest city in Ukraine. It killed 2 people, injuring 25 more. Officials call this a war crime and violating humanitarian law. The official count has been estimated at more than 170 drones. This happened and struck with stumbling effect on the ceasefire. So there's been a ceasefire semi-agreement, not written totally fully in. War continues by Russia, as they said they always will, until something is agreed. They sent an estimated 170 drones, not just at that city, but many others. But the targets this time was a military hospital where they were tending the wounded of the soldiers, but they also attacked apartment blocks and so forth. I would consider anything that's to do with civilians as a war crime. I don't care. But that's my opinion on that. And I tried to keep my opinions out, but we all know that we want the war to end. That's always going to be my output from this blog. And I hope to God that something happens quickly. Bang goes that 3 days that Trump said. He says, therefore, later on as a rebuck. If I'd have been president at the time, it would never have started. He was actually president, but he was outgoing when the war started. So, yeah, you can look at these things from several angles. What else has been going on in the world? Yeah, hundreds trapped under rubble of trapped building as Myanmar's earthquake death toll passes 1,600. This was estimated at being a 7.7 tremor on the Richter scale, I take it that was, which struck at 12:50 local time on Friday. I think that's around about 20 past 6 Greenwich Mean Time. The war that's going on in the province has hindered rescue and communication into the area. Yeah, such a sad event. It's been all over the news. Such devastation. And of course, with the 2 plates that caused this earthquake. Its effects have been felt in Thailand and other areas. So the death toll and the injured must be just astronomical. And then with a civil war going on, yeah. And it's been noted, after this, that buildings actually built even after 2007 are not earthquake proof in such an active earthquake area. It's sad, incredibly sad, and upsetting to many, and very upsetting to me to see all of the deaths and the injured and the plight of these people. So I hope things definitely improve soon. And then even more news in the UK. The UK Chancellor for Labour had a spring budget statement on Thursday. Yeah, and what she actually said was she announced further squeezes to the pensioners, old age pensioners and benefit people, and also did not rule out that in the autumn budget, the main budget, tax rises may be happening later in the year. They'll always blame the big hole that Conservatives left. What I say about that is that there were two different pictures on this. As much as there was a big hole, what the Conservatives tried to do was sanction sort of like agreements and pay for things and pay for it later. Labour's opinion was if you don't have the money, don't pay for it. So with that type of structure, they have to raise taxes now to get the money in because they can't rely on sanctions in the future to pay for it. I must admit, my dad was one of those people that said, don't use credit cards. If you've got the money in the bank, use it. If you haven't got it in the bank, don't buy it. HP is a danger to everybody, etc., etc. But I don't think a country can survive like that. I don't have too much to say other than squeezing the benefits, squeezing the pensioners is just wrong. They've spent all that money to you in the past. The infrastructure, therefore, should be better now. We shouldn't be thinking about potholes and all of this sort of stuff. There's been astronomical advances in road surfaces, and we continue to put down cheap khaki tarmac that's mixed in with other weak material that basically just crumbles away. You need to, at some point, have changed this. And I feel a fear for the plight of the biker, that's forever avoiding potholes on the edges of roads, moving away from them and then forcing them into the main track of cars. It's an awful situation. But I've got nothing else to say really on it other than everything there is just so sad, so bad, and some of it avoidable. And I just hope to God that things do turn around. Maybe this Labour government will do it. I don't know. At the moment, I think they're going about things wrong. Their polls are constantly on the decline. But then they always will do if they take away from the vulnerable. So I don't feel sorry for them at all. So that's the end of the news. And then there's just my news, which has all been bad, I have to say. It started off really for me on Monday, where my aunt came to see us out of the blue, to be quite honest. And she told me that my auntie Doreen, I call her Auntie Doreen, but she's actually a great cousin. My Auntie Doreen, who was a lovely lady who I visited fairly often, died. And the similarity of her death and the conditions of my mum are eerie. So a month ago, she went into hospital with CAP, which is exactly what my mother's got. But when she came out a week later, which is exactly as my mum came out, the family noticed that when she was sleeping, there was a crackle coming from her vocal, from her throat. And they prescribed some antibiotics, dioxycycline antibiotics, yeah. And they petitioned for her to go back into the hospital as soon as possible. They waited and waited and waited. She was on these antibiotics, which are only for 5 days. And unfortunately, at the age of 93, she died. So on Monday, I found out that a person that's been quite prominent in my life died. And the same thing that's happening to my mother. So yeah, quite serious, and made me think very deeply. And when my sister turned up on Monday, she did a fantastic job, because I'm working at the same time as all this is going on. And she therefore needed to make the phone calls. And then we get into this round robin of a problem. So this is what it is. You phone the doctor because you need some doxycycline, but you have to speak to the GP to get that. You phone up and the surgery says the doctors are encumbered and that you'll need to phone the 911 service or the 111 service. You phone them up and they say, until it's out of hours, you need to speak to the GP. You then relay and say, but they've told us that they're encumbered. And they then repeat, you need to speak to your GP. You then phone up the GP again and you say to them that 111 were not helpful and that you need to speak to the GP. And they repeated, they're encumbered. So you wait until after surgery ends, which is about 6:30 in the evening. And you phone up and they say, yes, come to the hospital, we'll help. And all this time that this is going on, another condition happens to my mother. She starts complaining that she's getting a stinging sensation when she passes water, which means it's another antibiotic. So my sister makes all the phone calls and goes to the hospital. And while that's happening, she's having to wait for the tablets. It took over 2 hours. And when the tablets were here, we then asked the questions, though. The GP prescribed a certain antibiotic, but the hospital prescribed another antibiotic. Do the antibiotics conflict with each other? Question. I didn't get an answer to that. And so the antibiotic, the doxycycline for Cap, was a must, and I gave her that. And the urine UTI possible infection I held back on. Now on Tuesday, my sister didn't turn up, and I found out later on from her husband it's because she's got a migraine. She actually didn't wake up. She was in bed. Paul didn't, which is my sister's husband, didn't know, and he apologised. He said, there's no need to apologise. These things happen. But it did stop me from doing certain things, and I'll explain that in a moment. And he asked about the other antibiotic, and I said, if I hadn't heard from my sister, I was going to give it to my mother. And so that night, I gave my mother that particular tablet. During the day, my mum said there was no more stinging sensation, but that's not good enough for me. If it's there, it was there. My mother's memory is not brilliant. She's always going to not want to be a burden on anybody and say there isn't a pain, but there was, so I gave it to her. So I didn't really need a prod from Paul. That was going to happen anyway. And the only good news about Monday with the death of Doreen, if you can ever have one, is that she had plenty of what they call incontinence pads. She had hundreds of them. And the family decided it was okay for my mother to have them. So that saved us a bit of money, to be quite honest. But they're not pull-up ones. They're ones that go into your own underwear. So they move about. They're not the best, but they are expensive. So very grateful for that. Wednesday came along, and just like any other day, you monitor your mother and all of that sort of stuff. I needed to go shopping. My sister was here and I went shopping because we can't leave my mother by herself. That's one rule. The other thing, she can't go upstairs. And later in the evening, she complained of stomach cramps so bad that she was doubling up. This is what my mother does. She's standing up and she goes like this, oh, and then moves forward. It hurts, and then back. Repeat ad infinitum. Phoned my sister. She turned up, instantly said, you need an ambulance. Called the ambulance. The paramedics turned up, and their answer was that the cap antibiotics have decreased her immune system. It's supposed to boost it, but it will make her tired, is what I'm trying to say. And the other antibiotic for the urinary tract is now kicking in, causing the stomach cramps. But there is now a third problem. That third problem is that her legs and ankles are swollen. And that requires a water tablet, which my mother's had before. So again, we're in this situation of speaking to a GP to get the water tablet, etc., etc. So on Thursday again, I'm at work and my sister turns up at certain times of the day. We were in the same situation. I phoned for the water tablet this time, was in the same circle that my sister was in. My sister, quite rightly turned around and said, welcome to my world. And I said, yes, I do understand. But when I say that to my sister, I am saying, I realised it anyway. You do know I appreciate you. But these are all sort of like reassurances type things that we're going through, and we're all getting very stressed. So we wait, the only thing that I could ask my sister to do, being as I was looking after my mum as best as possible, was, can you phone 911 or 111, and can you email me what the result is so that I can, help in the morning with anything. What happened is that my sister didn't text me, so I have no idea what was going on. I was getting quite angry in the morning for several reasons. On Friday, the nurse came in, and it was a new nurse, and they didn't knock on my door to say that their presence was even here, and they didn't know where anything was because it was a new nurse. And I usually show the new nurses where everything is, where the towels are, where the collapsible water basin is, etc., etc. So I didn't know whether my mother had really been to the toilet. But Friday is supposed to be a very good day for my mum because it's the day she usually gets her hair done. So I managed to get that sort of like problem sorted out. I got my mother onto the toilet. I got her into the car. I got her to the car park. I got her into the hair salon. I got home, did more work. An hour later, pick up my mum, which is the reverse of what I've just told you. Back out of the salon, into the car park, into the car, back home, into the house, back to work. And, my sister turns up at 1 o'clock. And I have to ask her those horrible questions, where was the text, all of this sort of stuff. And it blew into a massive argument. And I think it was going to happen. And words were said. My sister stormed out, which totally is understandable. I felt a lot of remorse. I sent text messages to her saying sorry. I also said that I'd keep her in the loop in regards to what was going on with my mother. We had a doctor's appointment to phone after 2 o'clock on that day for a memory test. that was a referral from the hospital. And that phone call occurred, and the doctor said that I'd asked for it. I said, no, check your records, it's the hospital. And he said, oh, yes, quite right. And then I told him about all of it, the memory and so forth. And he said, I think we ought to defer this for a couple of weeks because of the cap. And I said, well, it's the hospital that referred you, and she had cap in the hospital. I don't like that answer, but you're the doctor. I have to agree with it. I then told him about the swollen ankles, and he said, yes, you need a water tablet. And he prescribed that instantly. And I talked about the fact that my sister can't act on behalf of my mother because we filled in a form and it's taking time for it to be administered. And he said he couldn't do much about it, but he would try and expedite it. And I sent all of that to my sister to say, I've tried everything I can. And I've tried to expedite your ability to be able to act on my mother's behalf like I can. No answer. So I've got no answer to all the sorries, no answer to the messages. And I started to worry a little bit, because if my sister's no longer coming to the house, how do I do the shopping? But the biggest problem is that the tablets that I have to take for my heart and the tablets that I take for my mother, they run out Saturday, and I filled in a repeat prescription on Friday, and I hadn't had the text message to say that they were ready. Thank God for my aunt on Saturday, because she turned up and decided that she'd stay with my mum for an hour, and I managed to go and get the shopping done. Now, I didn't know my aunt was coming, so I had to ask my mother to get in the car with me to go and get her tablets. They said, when I got down there, and my mum's sitting in the car, by the way, they told me it would be ready Tuesday. And I said, I'm sorry, but she's got no tablets now, and she's just come out of hospital. They said, leave it with them. It'll be 12 o'clock. And I said, she's sitting in the car. I can't get her out of the car and back in. By the time I've got her out of the car and back home, it'll be time to get back in the car and come back, because it's about an hour and a half away. Leave it with them, they said, give us 20 minutes. So I got back in the car, stayed with my mum for 20 minutes. Told her all about it. She didn't understand. But we played a little game looking at the pigeons in the trees and so forth. And she seemed to be in a good, happy place. And 20 minutes later, I went in and they got all the tablets. They said, all the tablets are there. I went, I'm going to have to take your word for it because I haven't got time to check it. They said, check it if you want. And I went, well, okay. So I checked my own, fine. And then I had to make a decision. Do I check my mother's? I haven't really got time. She's by herself. So I said, I'm taking it. It's all there. And I left. Got my mum out of the car and relaxed again with a cup of tea and all that sort of stuff. So basically Saturday came and went. I stayed with my mother all the time. There was no messages from my sister. And we get to Sunday, and I'm hoping to God that my sister will turn up for Mother's Day. I'm sure she will. It's just an argument, but it was a vicious argument, and I have to put some of the blame on me. As soon as somebody comes in through the door, you don't start asking questions about things. But what you have to understand is that when you're stressed and you've got sleep deprivation, and you ask your sister to keep in touch and she doesn't, then you think that you're not being listened to. And that's one of my big problems that I have, is I don't think people listen to me. They hear me, but they don't listen. So it goes in one ear and they do exactly what they were going to do in the first place, with no regard to what you said. Do you see what I mean? And I've suffered with that all my life. And in this particular instance, I am in the right. I've got no doubt about it. If I ask my sister to give me a text message to say what went on, and it's about your mother, you do it. If she asks me the same thing, I do it. But it's not the same the other way round. And, I put my hand up and say, you should have been more compassionate, I suppose, to somebody that's just walked through the door. But it festers. If you're there at night, worried about it, sleep deprivation, you have that morning where you've got to get your mum down to the hairdressers and back up. You've got nurses that turn up late or don't do the right thing, etc., etc., etc. And then your sister comes in and she hasn't done it either, the things that you've asked. Then all of those things pile up to the point where you're going, la, 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 and that's it. Explode. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it'll clear the air. Don't know. But that's pretty much the week. And like I say, bad, isn't it? A death in the family, paramedics to come and see your mum, an argument with your sister. You just don't know, do you, what the next week's going to entail? But my God, I'm exhausted. So tired. I'm doing everything I can. Washing every day, drying every day, changing sheets every day, making the food every day, being with my mum and cups of tea every day, watching TV and being around your mum every day while working, and then all the other stuff, the shopping. And this is without me talking about how I'm supposed to do physio. It got to the point where I was giving my mum her tablets and forgetting to take my own. That's bad. You might as well turn around and say that I don't want to live because I'm neglecting my own self. But it's not that. It's just concern for your mum. So let's get that bad bit out of the way. It's as bad as the world news. It's as bad as the war, as everything else. And we need this blog to be happier and chirpier. So you can see that half an hour's gone. The panic alarm hasn't gone off on my mum. I showed you this last time. Here it is. It's a lovely little device. But I do recognise it's nearly half an hour. So I'm going to go and check on my mum. And then I'm going to come back and we'll do what's rest of the normal blog. So just give me a moment. And thanks very much for listening to all my woes. They'll get better. I've got no doubt about it. Remember that thing that I said? Glass is half full this year, Del Boy? Yeah, we'll keep on that. Won't be a moment. And welcome back, and sorry for there's going to be quite a few probably little cuts, and I hope you understand. In fact, the door's open, panic alarm is on, and my phone is on because it's very close to when the occupational health nurses turn up and I need to greet them and all that sort of stuff. My sister might turn up, it's Mother's Day, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of stuff is going on. But we move on and we get to the shout outs, which is the start of the good stuff, isn't it? That's the smiley stuff. Put a smile on your face. Let's try and keep things happy. And so many people shouted out, left comments, not just in the blog and in the notes, but text messages in Discord, which I'm a big sort of like a person to promote Discords. Started off with Mainmeisters. I'm a member of several, and I started my own, and the amount of goodwill that comes through those just keeps me going. Do you know what I mean? It's a hard slog at the moment. It's like going up Everest at the moment. But this is where I've always turned around and said I do adapt, but I adapt slowly, and I need to speed up. And it's harder as you get older. But every day's a learning day. I've learned things every day. My God, the amount of stuff. But it's all stuff that you won't want to know about. It's about occupational health and how nursing works and how it's funded and all sorts of stuff. Which is a scary prospect, which I'll probably talk in a later blog about. But I just want to give a big thanks, really, to my cousin Laura, my aunt Mandy, my sister and Paul. They've been wonderful the last 2 weeks. With the mother aspect of things, it's just some things are just need to be ironed out. You know what I mean? But let's get the shout out. So these are the ones I just want to read out that left comments. There's Robert's Retro Gaming. Fantastic channel, by the way. Most of these have got channels. And he paid me a very big compliment just, I think, last night. I think it was Donkey Kong 3 that he was playing on his channel. And he was bigging up Steve's Gaming, which is another big friend of mine and a great channel, and saying how he liked my blog and that I do some good gameplay videos. Thank you so much. I don't get too many compliments verbally in people's channels. I know that they appreciate me, but when you hear it, it puts such a boost on you, and then it makes me feel I'm not doing enough. But it encourages me to do more. See what I mean? So thank you, Robert, for that shout out. You got Ian Hill, the Ramblings, who I let down this week. Wednesday, the paramedics turned up right at the time where I was going to do our 50th episode. But he, again, would not do it without me. And we had a 2-hour chat when my mum had gone to bed. And we talked about how things happened that night. And we had a good laugh about some of the crap that's going on in the film and TV industry, which cheered me up no end, and I probably got the best sleep that night. So salute to my friend Ian. What a great guy. I mean, he's been with me now like a stone, you know. Then we've got Colin Jones, aka Ponder. Fantastic channel again. He did so much output this week compared to other weeks that there was so much to watch. It was hard to keep up with, to be quite honest. Wee Bob Art, who constantly is now moving into the movie bits and talks about Ian all the time and me. And, you know, it's very humbling for that. And then I've got other friends. We're going down the list now. Martroid, Steve's Gaming, Down the Rabbit Hole, Denny. And we got a new one here, Roz C6E, all wishing me well. And advice and all sorts of stuff, and you'll hear it when I get to the comments. So I think we might as well just get the comments up, shan't we? I've got them minimized at the bottom of my screen here. There we go. And I haven't put them in any particular order, but the first one that's come up is Denny, who I used to call War and Peace Denny, but at the moment he's going through his own problems. Seems like everybody's got problems at the moment. But you know, these things are there. So, right. What did Denny put? He's got, hiya, mate. I seem like a stuck record the last few weeks, but work has literally robbed my spare time. I have again, so nothing major happening again, my end. So he's just basically saying work has taken stuff away for him to say that he hasn't got much to say. And it's understandable. Nice once again to catch up last week. Hoping your mother starts to pick up a little now the meds are getting into her system. And I've mentioned all about what my week's been like, so you'll know that this is after that conversation. But, you know, nevertheless, we did have a phone catch up and it was great. And it cheered me up no end. Hope everyone out there are spoiling their mothers today. Soon rolls around, doesn't it? Yeah. But we should spoil our mothers every day. But yeah, a special day for your mum is indeed something we need. Just like we have a Father's Day, which I don't think is celebrated really quite as much. But I always remember my dad on Father's Day, especially now he's gone. I did manage to catch the Netflix film last night, Leave the World Behind, another in the apocalyptic tropes on films. I actually thought it was really good. Reading the reviews on the IMDb, I think the ending went over most people's heads. It actually explains what's actually happening if you listen carefully. Yes, a lot of films are like that. Misinterpretation of ending of films. In fact, that could be a topic for many of my friends that have their own film channels. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So brief this week, but I have a question for today. We hear about scams day in, day out, and how clever some are to get money out of you by deceptive means. Do you think some YouTubers are using the same practice to do the same to their subscribers? Question mark. And my simple answer to that is, of course I think it goes on. Do I think everybody is guilty of it? Absolutely not. It's very difficult to know whether a person intended to get money out of people when they talk about a problem that occurred for them. But unless you word your video correctly, people are naturally going to be, especially people who are really passionate about the channel, will send stuff to someone. And there is a video that I'm going to talk about later on that I think Denny is talking about. It's not a film one, it's a game one. And my opinion of it is that I rarely read the comments other than the comment that I might leave behind. I watch the video, have my own opinion of something and go away. And I therefore then don't read the comments that are going down underneath. And apparently it's shocking to look at this one person that will be mentioned later on how much goodwill came out of it. And that if you count up all of that money, that person got 5 times how much she was scammed in a video. What you have to ask yourself is that intentional? In this particular instance, I don't think it was. I looked at other videos and didn't see anything like that going on in any other video. So I can only imagine it was just a badly worded video. And I'll leave it there with that. I think, yes, Maymeister and I, we've all watched videos and we've all seen people going, join my club. Oh, I need this piece of hardware, but I haven't got any money. Those are the ones that I think are disgusting. Ones where you talk about a hardship where you fell foul of something. You just got to be careful that you're not going out there with a begging hat on. And, you know, I think those ones are the ones where it's a shame that it can be misinterpreted. But I think the majority out there are honest people. That's my simple answer to that one. But salute to my friend Denny. I totally agree. YouTube can be a bit of a mess. And there can be so many people out there that you can fall foul to. And I might be wishing good things about a person when actually they're actually out for their own selves, is the best way to look at it. So salute to my friend, and we move on to Robert's Retro Gaming, who I was only just mentioning a moment ago. And he's put, hey there, I hope this last week has gone all right. You've given some updates in Discord, and I hope your mum is on the mend. You have a lot to deal with caring for her. You're a good son. Just bear with me. Just want to make sure that that's not something I need to keep an eye on. I think everything's okay. Yeah, looks okay. So I'll carry on. And yeah, thank you very much. I try to be a good son. That's all I can say. It shouldn't be an uphill struggle. It should come easy. The uphill struggle is the changes. You continue. All children need role models. Now, this comes from that Gareth Southgate thing that I talked about. The only thing woke means is something I don't like or something that makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm not trying to start an argument. So I'll leave it at that for now. We have to be able to have discussions about whatever topic in a respectful way. And we are certainly not going to agree about everything. Imagine how dull the world would be. Not quite sure what those last 2 lines mean, but I mentioned something about Gareth Southgate, and it was mentioning about male mentors and the fact that Gareth was going around saying there's a lot in the press about women and their plights, and that men are being left in the background, and that men should be men, and all of this sort of stuff. It was a difficult subject, and my opinion of it is that, yeah, I've got certain things that I looked up to in like TV shows and sporting heroes, and I don't feel enough of that goes on now in the male area of things. But that's not to take away anything about what's been talked about for women either. So it's a difficult subject, but I applaud him for trying, because I do feel sometimes in this world I feel guilty for being a male. Like many people in the last 5-6 years have felt guilty about being of a certain colour, white, whatever. We shouldn't feel that way. History has told us where we've gone wrong, and we learn from history and we move forward, and we don't act that way. That's how it should be, shouldn't it? Doesn't always work out that way. It sounds like your mother enjoys her time out at the salon. There's a nice thing for you to help her with. Yeah, damn difficult and hard. And next week will be even harder because it's the 6th week, and she usually has her hair coloured, which means that instead of having an hour down at the salon, she'll need to be there for 3 to 4 hours. And that's going to be a pretty tricky thing to do when you've got to have somebody sit with your mother. But I'll work it out. The salon's been wonderful about this, by the way. Here's a question for you that I was given during a puzzle-solving event at work. When does 8 plus 8 equal 4? I did not solve it, sadly, but I did get the answer at the end. Oh my God. When does 8 plus 8 equal 4? Now I'm looking at it closely. When does 8 plus 8 equal 4? And just to show you media playback, I've not got any Google open. Now, it might be really something. Now, have you ever done these puzzles before where somebody says, it was on the 1% Club, by the way, when they said, what day are you if it's the 1st of the 1st of February, 2nd of March, 3rd of, and it went on and on and on. And what it was it was a count of the letters, and you got the job farmer. It was on the 1% Club last night. If I look at it from just the text, the number 8 is made up of 2 circles. If you put the 2 circles together, you get 8, but you only get 2 that make it up. If you put the 2 circles together for 8 plus 8, you get 4. So when does 8 plus 8 equal 4 could be the 4 circles that make up the 2 numbers 8. I'm just going to check that message, by the way. Do apologise. No, again, it's just general chat going on. Oh, I know. The clocks have just gone forward. Now, if it's 8 in the morning and you add 8, you get 16. 1600 hours. It's 4 o'clock. That could be 4. 8 plus 8 equals 4. 8 in the morning, add 8 hours, you get 4 in the afternoon. 1600 hours. Wow. I wouldn't have got that if the clocks hadn't moved forward. I'm going to go with 8 in the morning. You add 8 to 8 in the morning, you get 4 in the afternoon, which is 1600 hours. 8 plus 8 is 16, so it equals 4. Yes. How's that? You continue. I'm so surprised. Enjoyable blog as always. Thanks, brother. Oh, thank you so much. absolutely wonderful. We will move on because I do have to check the occupational health. It's very close. After 11 o'clock. It can be any time. So Ian Hill, The Ramblings is the next one. It says, "Hi Delboy. Hope your mother is now more settled and her situation is now improving. I know how difficult it can be caring for someone who you love, so I wish you all the best in these difficult times. Always remember to take care of yourself too. You need to be as healthy as you can. I hope you can get better quality sleep and still have some time when you could play a game or watch a film." And that's where the plight is that I've been talking about. I've actually neglected to take my tablets, and it's very important because I had a heart attack last year. I haven't played many games, but I've tried to do something on YouTube, playing some games, and you'll notice that I was interrupted in there, even by a whole day on one of them, which was the Atom Fall video. It goes on and on and on. I'll do my best for me, but my mother is the most important. It doesn't matter if you can't do the live on Wednesday. There's lots of other times we will be able to do it. Life is more important than YouTube, and that's very true, but I still felt guilty, and I'm still busting to do something this Wednesday with you. I did watch all of the Bond films up to GoldenEye. Bloody hell, you've got how much time? And enjoyed it. Even altered my opinion about some of the films. The Blu-ray transfers are of a high quality. I don't think I will need to get the 4K upgrades when they start releasing them. I'm very happy with these. I might be tempted with getting my favourite films. I can think about 5 of them. And I have to say, unless they're in steelbook, I'm only going to buy the ones that I enjoy as well. And they will be the early ones, I have to say. I watched a download of a film called The Monkey, which I've, by the way, ordered this week on steelbook, based on a Stephen King story. It was all right. I didn't say okay, LOL. Yeah. Now that's an in-joke with Playtendo Guy, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But I was not that impressed with it. I don't think the horror and humour worked well together. I would have enjoyed a straight telling of the story. It would have given the horror elements more impact, and I'm pretty sure that's how King would have liked it. So my question this week is, are there any films you have seen which you feel could have been better if the tone and or the direction had been changed? All the best to you, and try and have a reet grand time. I try and put that reet in. That reet grand time, which is just like a Yorkshire thing. Oh my God. Could have been better if the tone or the direction had been changed. So many, I suppose. Lawnmower Man. Again, a Stephen King one. That comes to mind because you mentioned Stephen King. Lawnmower Man to me was a disappointment when it came out, and it's even more disappointment as I keep moving forward with it. It's absolutely atrocious film. It was so bad that I think Stephen King tried to sue the studio and get his name removed from anything other than he wrote the book. You know, he didn't want to be a executive producer or anything like that. He hated it. It was so different to how the book was written that he wanted to say, get stuffed and remove my name now. I don't know whether he got away with it. I don't know. But Lawnmower Man, I think anybody that watched that film, is it just end of 80s, early 90s film? It had so much that it tried to do, you couldn't do it. It was about VR and a person that cuts the lawn that, you know, isn't very intellectual, and putting on VR makes them more intellectual. Yeah. Wrong time. Could be done better. But they did try and do it better a couple of years later. It was worse. Oh, how can you make it worse? But it was. I've actually got round now to seeing Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And if anybody knows anything about that particular film, it's turning our lovely stories that we listened or read as kids and turning them into horror films. Winnie the Pooh being this particular one. Don't think it works very well. It's not for me. That could be better. If you're gonna do it differently than you've done in that film. It's I can see why on paper people would think, yeah, let's turn a tale into a gothic tale, because that's where most stories came from. You know, Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood. They're all horror real tales, really. Winnie the Pooh, there was a character going around killing and all that. An obvious one. Yes, an obvious one. Superman 2, to me, obvious. Sacked during the production run of the second film. Richard Lester, I think, came in as director because of a falling out between the producers. Richard Donner did an absolute fantastic job of the first film, was doing an equally great job in the second, getting now used to the technology and how to make it work and make it cheaper. And then because of an argument, sacked. Somebody else comes in and they have to therefore use part of Richard Donner's optical shots. But Richard Lester then had to sift through and edit in his own shots, which was 3/4 of the film, to be quite honest. There was only about a quarter or even less of Richard Donner's film in there. But there was so much that Richard Donner had done that they even done a Richard Donner cut later on. Yeah, Superman 2 for definite. And my personal one, which comes to mind, is X-Men Dark Phoenix. Because X-Men were on a roll with their films, with Days of Futures Past and so forth, that when Dark Phoenix came out, they introduced a new director and it was atrocious. If you do a great film, you don't follow it up with a piece of shit. And it just, the Dark Phoenix story is a story that's well beloved in the comic book industry, and this one was just done so clumsily, bad. So Bryan Singer did the original Days of Future Past. I don't even know the direct. In fact, no, I don't. I can't remember his name. It was Simon something or other. He did it, and it was just awful. You go look it up yourself. You didn't even have to. Bryan Singer just didn't do it, and he should have done. That's my little bit for you, Ian. Thank you so much. Salute, sir, and thank you for all the well wishes. I'm just going to hit that pause button again. I do apologise, but I do need to make sure that the occupational health people can get in. My mother's okay, got a cup of tea and all that sort of stuff. It'll be a bit like this, so just bear with me. And everything's fine. You can see I've just closed the door behind me. See, if you ever watch things that change between shots, you'll know I've just been out there, come back. Mum's happy, reading the book, listening to the telly. So, we move on, and I just want to say salute to all those I've read out so far. The next one is Colin Jones, aka Ponder, a very good friend of mine, very technically minded. I'm pretty sure that we would talk like geeks for hours and hours and hours. That type of person. And it's such a shame that things happen that stop me from being able to meet great people like him. So, he's put, glad to hear your mum is improving and brightening up since leaving the hospital, but by heck, that's a lot of commitment. I do fully understand that this is totally voluntary, though, and of course, you should be doing it. Well, yeah, and things aren't improving that well, but they are, because she's home. So that's the big improvement. I mean, that's all you can say about it. I don't think modern remakes of classic games are really meant for the likes of us. I did get Missile Command Recharged for my phone, but when I tried to transfer it across to my new find, I find it's no longer available. This was the same with many other games, and others aren't compatible. So I'm basically done with mobile games, and I've been done with mobile games for bloody ages. In fact, before Candy Crush became such a big hit. I think Bejeweled was the last one that I played an awful lot, or was it Zuma? One of the two. There was an Avengers game that I played for a bit, but it became monetized. It was one of these ones where a JRPG where you've got your heroes on the left and the villains on the right, and you fought, and there were special cards that came down. It was fun, but when you start having to buy the characters and all of this sort of stuff, you just go, you. But Missile Command I played on the PC, not on the phone. And that's probably where I mentioned, I think, in my own video, you can see its phone background just employed itself onto the PC version, and it just doesn't work. How many people have got touchscreen monitors these days in the homes? They've got monitors. They've even got 4K monitors. Touchscreen 4K monitors, probably not. 1080p 4K monitors, maybe a bit more. There's a lot of people that do graphic work. So, you know, I look at it like that. But I gave this all comes about from a game I played called Lunar Lander Beyond. And I uninstalled it. I'm sorry, but it was just not my idea of a reinvention or a reimagination of a game. Sorry, wasn't for me. Yeah, I was planning to put a cycling video out last week, but ran out of time. So I'll leave that one until I have the usual 30 or so clips. This last week, you should have at least 4 from me, freer up at the time of me commenting, to make up for the missing week. And you're quite right, you will hear me talk about those a little bit later on. The answer to your riddle is a promise. Yes, it is indeed. I gave a riddle at the end just as a laugh. You can Google it. I have no idea whether people Google it. If you try and work it out yourself, good for you. If you Googled it, wow, it's just fun that you got the answer. It made you look, didn't it? Made you look, made you stare, made you lose your underwear. Anyway, that was just a fun thing. The answer is a promise. The question was in last week's blog at the end. My question is going to be a bit food-gatory, but not a comparison. What is the most involved meal you have ever made, or one that you make regularly? I think I've mentioned these before. I'm trying to do the best for my mum, and I'm making her lots of some of these. So there's potato bakes, which I haven't learned to do in an air fryer yet. It does have a roast function, so I will try. But I make lots of one of these 3. Cumberland pie, shepherd's pie, cottage pie. And there isn't much difference between them other than the meat you use and the way you cook it. I have done lots of those along with hot pots for my mother to give her a little bit of a vegetable boost, should I say. And I like making pizzas from scratch. That's quite involving because you have to do the bread part, the base. And it's nice to just put that sauce and stuff on the top and some sprinkling of toppings and just, grill it or whatever. And hey, you got yourself a pizza. It's one of those ones there. If you do it right, you can actually make quite a few of them and put them in the freezer and then cook them later on. But it's the same with cottage pies and so forth. Again, you can make a batch of them. So yeah, I'm falling into those sort of traps at the moment. I give my mum jacket potatoes and with different toppings, and she has wholemeal bread in the morning as toast. So she's getting food, and it's interchanged with cups of teas and custard creams, biscuits, a bit of chocolate if I feel inclined to make a bit of a treat for her. Thank you so much, Colin. Absolutely wonderful. Please go and have a little look at his channel, but I will be mentioning it a little bit later on. So we moved to Wee Bob Art, and he's put, good stuff, Del. Hope you get the care stuff sorted out. Might be worth considering giving YouTube a break, even for a few weeks. But I understand it's also helpful to talk, even if it is to a camera. As for the riddle, you cannot keep me until you have given me to someone else. I've ended up trying to get a clue, and the search just gave me the answer, which is a promise. Yeah, a shame. I'm so sorry. It's probably too easy to get an answer to that one. It was just a joke, really, for you, wee baba. When it comes to taking a break, my promise in this series of blogs was I'd never miss a day. Never miss a Sunday. Even if I have to do it the day before or the day after or whatever, you're going to get one. It's a diary. You can't have a missing piece of the puzzle. You can't put two together. You're going to miss something. It should be an easy matter that you can find an hour. It doesn't have to be 2.5 hours like most of these are. Find an hour for yourself to be able to do this. And as you know, I found a sort of happy way of doing it, which is pausing the action and going to make sure everything's okay and then coming back. So long may that continue. But you say, anyway, all the best for your family. Question for next time. Do you have Man of Steel as a steelbook? Yes, I do. And how many steelbooks do you have with the word steel in them? If not many, then how many the word metal? My God. I'd have to look at my catalogue, which is a little bit bitty at the moment, and I don't think the phone that I've got my bar scanner on is on at the moment, because I've got 3 phones, look, that I have here. They all do different things, alarms, cataloguing things, my normal phone, etc, etc. In fact, actually, I might as well put my normal phone on charge. So I'd have to think of film titles that have got the word steel in it, and or the word metal, because you'll find when you buy a steelbook, it doesn't have the lettering steelbook written in it. It's got a J card that says this is a special collector's steelbook, but that's nothing to do with the film and the title of the film. So I'd have to think, how many of the 4,000 odd films have I got that meets that criteria, steel or metal? In fact, actually, just as a laugh, here's Leonard Maltin's 2015 guide. If I turn to the S's, how many have got the word steel in it? There's P, SA, SE, SH, SL, SP, ST. Steel. Now, this is only up to 2015. Steel. Now, it depends on whether you want steel with EA or EE. So, which ones have I got? Here we go. Steel. We'll do with the EA first. Right, so we've got in here Steel Big, Steel Little, haven't got that. Stealing Beauty, haven't got that. Stealing Harvard, haven't got that. Stealing Heaven, oh, I got that, but I don't think I've got it as a steelbook. Nope. Stealing Home, seen it, haven't got it. Stealing Time, never seen it. Sounds good, that one. Stealth. All right, so we've got to the end of steel. Stealth is just STEA. So STEE. Right, here we go. So we got Steel Dawn. Yes. And have I got that on Steelbook? Patrick Swayze. Don't think I have. Steel Justice. What's in that? Oh. Nope, haven't got that. Steel Helmet? No. Steel Magnolias? Got. Haven't got it in the Steelbook. Got that as a Blu-ray. Steelyard Blues. And that's it. That helps you a little bit. It just goes to show you there aren't that many films with the word steel in it. And the other thing is they haven't made many with in a steel book either. I won't look for metal. We'll be here forever. Thank you so much, Wee Papa. I hope that helps a little bit. We'll move to Martroid. Salute, my friend, by the way. Cheers once again for doing that Gates of Zendikon video, Del. You inspired me to dig out the cartridge in the weekend and give it a few more goes myself. Loads of fun. All the best to you and your mum, mate. No, thank you so much. And it's nice just to get a couple of lines, you know, that wish me well and that you liked the video that I did and all of that sort of stuff. My pleasure. Absolutely. Loved it. I'd have to should really be thanking you. So have a great week, my friend. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And the last one. Steve's Gaming. He put, hi, Del. Great blog as usual. I hope you and your mum are coping right now. I can only imagine all the extra work and stress it's causing you. And I wish you all the best to continue to deal with it. I hope things are getting better and more manageable soon for both of you. In the news, that earthquake, so damn awful and a massive loss of life, poor buggers. Now I have little else to say. So on with the questions. Here we go. Question 1. 1970s TV series, When the Boat Comes In. You shall have a fishy on the little dishy. Yeah, I know it. Starring one of mine and your TV legends, the great James Bolam. Yes, brilliant guy, James Bolam. Did you watch it? Question mark. Did you like it? Question mark. I've seen the complete 24-disc DVD box set in a local charity shop for a tenner. I might grab it. You better. Jesus, there's 4 seasons of that. But I don't really remember it that well. So did I like it? Did I watch it? Yes, I watched it. Did I like it? I think back in the day I did. It's actually been repeated on Freeview, by the way. And I watched a couple of episodes. The one thing that I remember about it when I was watching it, you know, I watched a couple of episodes. It was Freeview. I think it was That's TV. That's what it's called. It's a Freeview channel called That's TV. It's all about James Boland's character. I think his name is Frost or Jack. Oh, what's his name? Oh, his name's Jack. It could be Frost or Ford or something. Anyway, James Bolam and a family. Can't remember the family's name. And it's all about the time between the 2 wars, World War I and World War II. And it talks about or tries to emphasize poverty and negativity, corruption, class, that sort of thing. Which I think James Bolam does really well because, you know, he's a flat cap type of guy. Doesn't like toffs and all of that sort of stuff. Working class, in other words. Likeable. And I think for a tenner, you wouldn't go wrong. You know what I mean? If you didn't like it, you could give it back to the charity and then sell it on again for another tenner. And at least you'd have got round to watching it. And £10 for 4 seasons. And I don't know how many episodes, must be running into there would have been about 20 or so per season. So you're looking at a good amount of hours to watch there. And I think it was an hour long. If I remember rightly. Yeah, it was. So I'll tell you another show that I would buy if I saw it for a tenner. That'd be Shine on Harvey Moon. Another one that's, you know, set in a period thing, set around the war. Just checking to see what that was. No. Nothing to do with occupation other than my mother. So I would say you'd be mad not to get it for a tenner. If it's still there, mate, walk down there, get it now. Question 2. What game has impressed you the most? in 2025? And what game was a bit of a letdown in 2025 so far? All the best, my friend, and give my love to your mum. That's an interesting question to ask, because we've both been looking, haven't we, at our Steam libraries and going, should I buy something new and entertain people on YouTube? And I bought Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I bought just recently Atomfall. I have bought one early this year, which was one of those role-playing game, top-down, cartoony type ones, which was called Witchfield or something. It was an involving story, drawn rather than pixel arted. And I haven't really bought much else in 2025. All the games were made in 2024 or below. Even that Lunar Lander was a 2024 release, even though I bought it in 2025. And you specifically state 2025. I will say this, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 deserves every accolade it gets, even though I'm not that good at it. Atomfall I'm enjoying, but I'm only an hour or so into the game. It's very early days. That little role-playing game that I talked about, I really enjoyed the beginning, and it started to wane a bit because it turned into a grind. That being said, I did enjoy my time in it, and I need to go back. It's just something happened in my life and I stopped playing it. Merwood, was it called? Witchwood? Merwood? Oh, I can't remember. I'll have to look in my library to find out, matey. But disappointments. I haven't really bought anything that's a major disappointment. Lunar Lander is a major disappointment, but it wasn't made in 2025. Some people are talking about Assassin's Creed, the new one, being a disappointment. I don't know. Haven't seen it. Some people are speculating about GTA. It's not out yet. I'm looking forward to that one. We need a new one. It's far too long between releases. Ghost Recon came out this year, and apparently that's been a disappointment. Ghost Recon. That's it. I can't think of any others. So sorry, I haven't come up with many downers, but I came up with a couple of uppers. Maybe that'll help. And we're moving further down. Salute, my friend, to Steve. You bastard, I fucking hate you, you little shit. I have to do my salute. I nearly forgot. But have a reet grand time, because you're up north, you miserable bastard. I mean, you great human being, you. Right. And we get to down the rabbit hole. I've been promoting this channel, but it's not that I need to. It's because I like it. That's what I have to say. And he's written this time, he's put, glad to hear your mum is doing and feeling better, Del. Isn't it ironic? You're now living the opposite of a baby monitor situation. You, the child, is listening to your parent to stir. Hope you two keep well for the upcoming week. Actually, I didn't think of it like that, but yes, there isn't a baby monitor in there, but there is a panic button, like a doorbell chime. I wonder what it'd be like if I had a baby monitor in there. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Sorry to hear you don't like the Lunar Lander reboot, but thanks for being honest, because I was tempted to get that one, and now I'll pass. Love the original arcade, but not interested in a waste of time, as you say. And I had to just go back to him, and I just had to say, look, I didn't mean it to come like that. If you see the game for a £5, get it. If it's 20 quid or more, I don't think you'll like it, and I think you'll be going, oh my God, why didn't I listen to Del the first time? Which is why I'm saying some games are overpriced, and that is priced at an AA range, not an AAA game. It's an AA game, or A. It's in the 20, 30 quid bracket when it's not in a sale, and it just isn't worth it. Really isn't. I didn't like it. I hope the video came across that it's got some good points, but yeah. And the last one we got here is Ross C6E. It says, Del, I really hope you and your wee mum get through this stage. You and your mum seem very strong. Thank you so much. It's little gestures and words like that from a long-term, probably subscriber who just wanted to listen to the plight of others to get over their probably own life a little bit, has actually come back and said, hey, you know what? I'm here. I've been listening and I do wish you well. Absolutely fantastic. So that's all the comments. That's everything to do with the shout outs. So I'm going to again do a little pause and just go and check my mum. But we're making good progress. And I hope some of that stuff in there was enjoyable to listen to. Back in a moment. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this, by the way. Back in a moment. And I'm back, and still no nurse yet. But I mentioned Robert earlier on, and he said that he liked some of the comic stuff. And I only find that I don't talk too much about the comic stuff, other than some omnibuses. I did mention last week about trading cards. And yes, I've made a decision to buy some trading cards, which I haven't bought in 20, 30 years, and open them up and show you what it's like opening up and seeing what you get and all of that sort of stuff, and whether it's a waste of money or whatever. Back in the day, I never thought of them as being a waste of money. But I've got one folder of my trading cards. It's one of my early ones. I'm going to go to the overhead cam. Look, you can see I've got a folder full here. And these are some of the trading cards that I got. Now, this is, what's this? The 1992 set of Marvel trading cards. And what you used to get, you used to buy these with these inlays, these ultra flare inlays, and you put them into order of, nines. And you had the characters. Now, they used to be in alphabet. Later on, they became alphabetical. But they just put them in any order at the beginning. And they weren't particularly well made. I mean, if I pull this out, you'll see that it's just flimsy card. I mean, they look okay. But later on, they became such a premium product that they made them even with chrome on them. And like any sticker or trading type thing, the idea was that you traded them and you got the full set, and you tried to get the chase cards being the most expensive card that you could get. And if you look at the box, it would tell you that the chase cards were one per box or something. So you had to buy 36 packs to get one chase card, or even 9 boxes to get a particular chase card, which is what they used to call a case. And those therefore became very expensive. But if you have a look at them, the artwork is lovely. On the back, it told you about the character. Don't know if you can see that. It told them about their powers, their first introduction, what comic book they came from. And you can just see they were done by the artists of the time. So in 1992, you'd probably get some artists like Gene Colan, or even some reproductions of Kirby, or John Romita, or John Romita Sr. There's a John Romita one for definite there. You'd even get John Byrne. I think that's one there. They usually mentioned who the artist was on the back of the card. But I just thought it'd be nice just to flip through some of these. You can see I've gone through now. I'm up to number 43. If I keep going, you got the Fantastic Four here, Iron Man. Most of these are heroes, but then you got some ones where there were team-ups. Look, with Spider-Man and the Human Torch there, right at the bottom. See if I can move it up a little bit. Hard to get it all in. I need to zoom out possibly slightly. So you got some more team-ups here. Punisher and Deathlock, Ghost Rider and Daredevil, Spider-Man and Sleepwalker. Even some villains, Red Skull and Baron Zemo. We're now up to number 97 in cards. You can imagine there's quite a few packs you'd need to have. These are now super villains. So we've gone through the heroes. So we've got the Rose, Doctor Doom, the Green Goblin, which you know is one of my favourite characters. White Queen, Thanos, which is in the movies. Terax, a Herald of Galactus. Kingpin, which is a major villain for Daredevil, but started off in a Spider-Man comic. We're up to now 133. Bloody hell, this base set is quite big. What we got here? Rookies. Oh, so people that are new to being heroes or villains. Rookies, yeah. Talon. Bishop. Not really a rookie anymore. Cosmic beings like the Watcher. Galactus, who I mentioned just now. What are we up to now? 151. Bloody hell. Eternity, a Doctor Strange character. Stranger, one of the people who held one of the Soul Stones that Thanos tried to get. Origins, look. Hulk's origin. Spider-Man's origin. Silver Surfer's origin. Wolverine's origin. And this is, by the way, at 1992, so the stories have been changed or become canon. Teams, so you got X-Men and Avengers and so forth. That's brilliant. My God, 178 we're up to now. This is just this one set. Keep moving forward. You've got major milestones in history, and I've always turned around and said the death of Gwen Stacy. Huge story. The coming of Galactus. Massive story. Dark Phoenix, which I told you was such a sad state of affairs when it comes to the comic. Days of Futures Past, which, as you know, has been made into a movie. And that means we get up to 199 and a checklist. So 199 was the wedding of Spider-Man. The 200 is the checklist. There were chase cards, I think. Just looking. Yeah, they were holograms. There were 5. Doesn't look like I had those. So I need to look up for those to finish the set. And then you got the later ones. Look, these are much later. This is DC versus Marvel, which was a late 90s thing. You can see that the artwork's changed. The cards are different. Look, if I pull them out, you'll see that the card stock is thicker and it's got chrome at the bottom, which is embedded or in there. So there's slight indentation where the chrome had to be added. Lots of DC versus Marvel here. It was a big crossover event. I think there's less of these. We're up to 25, look. Wonder Woman versus Storm, Magneto, the Joker. Yeah, so these are Marvel artists drawing DC and DC drawing Marvel, which is a great thing to try. It'd be interesting to see how a DC person tried to draw a Marvel character. That was always very interesting. So we're up to into the 70s now, look, and we've got some team-ups and battles that went on during this event. It was a year-long thing. What are we up to now? 88, 99, and it was 100. So this had 100 cards, and there were some chase cards. Now, what were the chase cards then? Let's have a little look. It's what they call a Holo FX limited edition. You can see, look, it says Holo FX. Bit difficult to see with that one. It does have a slightly different effect to it. Let's have a look at this one. Might be a bit easier. Yeah. So you can see there's something going on with the shield there. Not that fantastic, but it's got an effect that you can see. Not that impressive. And then we've got what we got here. These are very... Oh no, here's some more chase cards. But have a look. I'm missing one, but it makes up a huge picture. Look, it all interjoins. Oh, that's nice. I like that. That's good. I haven't looked at these in ages. And oh my god, there's a very special one here, a lenticular cards. I don't know if you know what lenticular. Do you remember rulers? You used to have lenticular effects. It's where you moved the ruler around and it changed its image. So in here you've got Spider Boy and Superboy and that. Look, Spider-Man, and it moves. I can't get a very good view of it on the camera, but you see it moves. When you move it from left to right or up and down. Yeah, so Superboy and Spider-Man move together to Spider-Boy. That's quite good. Quite like that. That's probably an expensive card to buy now. And then we've got what they call the Marvel Masterpieces. Now, these are very deluxe. These are very, very thick stock cards. See if I can show you one. I've got two of this one because I've got it right. So you've got the original Captain America there with its back, but you've also got the same back but a different card, but it's signed by the artist in gold chrome. That's nice. So that meant you had to buy the base set twice. They certainly know how to make money. But look at the artwork. It's definitely changed. They're done by either the same artist or different artists. So in here you've got 3 variations of Ghost Rider and the Hulk. So there's I think Liam who did that one. Let's have a look. And then you got another rendition and then another one. Yeah, so it doesn't say quite on the back who the artists are. It's probably on the packs. But if you go through these, I wonder what the chase cards are for these. They're lovely cards. In alphabetical order, I don't know if you've noticed that. So we're getting to S now. Look, there's Spider-Man. Look at that as a card. My God. Have I got a signature one of that one? I hope I have. There we go. A lovely card. And yes, I've got a signature one. Yeah, glad about that. I probably looked around for ages to get the signature. And as we move forward and we get to the 100th card, oh no, it goes on for more. So there's 106, 107, 108, 115. My God. This one's quite an exclusive set. We've got more villains. There's the checklist at number 150. And then you've got the chase. And oh my God, yes, look at those chase. I'll just show you Carnage. Just give you an indication. It is what they call a hollow flash. And it's got a hollow effect. I think it goes blue and purple. Yeah. Some nice ones there. So that's one chase set. Hollow flash. And then we've got another set. Again, these are what they call canvas cards. Yeah. You're not going to see this, but it's actually on canvas. See the indents. So it's a different type of card. Gives a different impression of colour. It hits it. Canvas cards. Yes, I remember those. And I think that's it. Yes. So that's trading cards. There, you know, there's hologram cards, canvas cards, hollow flash, blaster effects, all sorts of stuff. Chrome, metal. Brilliant. So I just wanted to show that off before I got to the watched on YouTube. So we'll go back now to the camera. And we'll talk a little bit about what I've watched on YouTube just recently. So as you know, there's a couple on here that are ones that I always watch each week. And it's nice to see Techmoan is back. So the ones that are definites are This Week in Retro, Techmoan, Gadget Show, and Chronologically Gaming. This Week in Retro had the subjects The Not So Fantastic Four, The Price of Banhammer, and Ice Cream. Some of the stuff that's in here I've mentioned in my blog before. The Not So Fantastic Four is about scammers. One of them I mentioned last week, which was the Sega scam thing that DJ Tropes did. They mentioned him in the Not So Fantastic Four section. Techmoan last week did a radio, credit card radio type technology, for which he took one apart so that you could see what's inside them. Of course, once you tear it down, you can't put it together again. They're glued together. So that was Card Radio's The Teardown. The Gadget Show did a number of things, but the two I watched with great interest were Tech's Greatest Rivalries, Fortune versus Fallouts, which didn't really go deep enough for me. It was an hour long, but it didn't talk about things like I don't know, Nintendo versus Sega, say. It didn't go into Commodore versus Sinclair, all of that sort of stuff. But it did go into Apple, and it did talk about Xbox versus PlayStation. There was a bit in there that I liked. And then they did the premium versus budget, which was interesting because I've got a patio out the front, and most people pressure wash their patios. And there are what they call weeders out there. So it did a premium versus budget. Do you buy a pressure washer costing you nearly 250 quid? Or do you buy a weeder, which could be half the price? But it will have its faults, such as low battery, etc., etc. So, yeah. And whether they'll damage the patio as well. So, yeah, that was interesting. Chronologically Gaming, as you know, has been going on now for quite some time. He is now at the end of November 82. He believes he'll be at December 82 very shortly. So it's going to be in the next week or so. That was brilliant. I did watch Ralph's Retro Comics, who did a section called Who Are the Greatest Marvel Comic Cover Artists of the 1960s? And it was nice to see that my favourite artist, John Romita, was listed in there. Absolutely fantastic. Then we've got that one that we were talking about earlier about scamming, and it was the Gebs 24. And like I say, that's not to say that I think this person did. This person got scammed. That's obvious. It's whether the story of how it happened was worded correctly to be just something to do on YouTube or to request money. I don't think there was a request for that one, but some people obviously felt strong enough to donate money. So less said about that, the better. But there was also a channel called ESO or ESO, and that was who came out with something that I just had to watch. The title of the video was called A New Fantasy Role-Playing Game to Rival Skyrim, called Tainted Grail. So apparently it's been out for a while, but it's actually been relaunched because it was early access and it's so much better. And it's apparently a rival to Skyrim. That has to prick your ears up if you're a fan of Skyrim. And Skyrim's been around now for 10, 12 years. So, you know, we need a successor. Then there was somebody called Elsa, and I can't pronounce the surname, Charetilia. Elsa, ELSA, Charretlia, Charretlier, an artist that Marvel asked to, for the celebration of a Fantastic Four event, draw one page that was drawn by Kirby and reimagine that page and do it her way. So it's redrawing a Jack Kirby F4 page, which I think we Bob Art would get a kick out of watching, because it tells you about the thought processes of how do you go about drawing perfection, because it would have been perfection from Jack Kirby, or perceived that way when we were kids, and then somebody coming along 50 years later and redrawing that page in a different way, make it more dynamic, change the colouring, the angle, drawing the characters their way, not the way that Kirby drew them, etc., etc. Very good. And then we've got Richard Tappenson, who I met while watching 20th Century Gaming, and he's actually fast becoming somebody that I might watch on a general basis. He's playing C64 games that he remembers, but also ones he hasn't. And he played this week Frog Run by Anirog, 1983. Are there any good Donkey Kongs on the Commodore 64? A question. And he played a number of them. And then Top Cat in Beverly Hills Cap, which is a 1990 game on the Commodore 64. And by 1990, I'd moved on. So it was interesting to see some Commodore 64 games later on that I would have missed. And that's what I watched on YouTube. Now, again, it's up to you whether you want to go and look at those videos. But I urge you to do so, just to see something a bit different. You might find that there's something there that catches your fancy, and you'll want to watch similar things from other people, especially that Richard Tappenson, like I say. So I'm getting lots of messages, so I'm going to just pause the video and I'll be back shortly to carry on with what I've watched on YouTube. And we're back, and the nurse has just turned up, so I've just shown her all around the house, and they're now looking after my mum. So I'll continue just to do as much as I can while they're here. Basically, we already know that they shouldn't need to come into my room, and they'll just leave the house when they're finished. So, films, TV, and soundtrack YouTube, what I've watched. Ian Hill, The Ramblings is the first one. And oh my God, as I've always mentioned, how much stuff does he do a week? My God. So we've got here the 5 crime films that he's enjoyed between 2009 and 2015. That's every day he does a 2009, then 2010, then 2011, and 2012, and so forth and so forth. So, you know, like I say, there is 6 there, and I dare say there's a 7th already out. Then he's done It's All About Collecting. He did a sort of like a chat type thing about history and collecting history, like the Magna Carta and all of that sort of stuff. Doctor Who review of Snake Dance, fantastic Peter Davison story. X-Files review of Season 3, Episode 20. He did an unboxing of Doctor Who The Savages, which I showed you last week as a steelbook. And he was going to do a live with me, but unfortunately it wasn't to be, because the paramedics were required for my mum. But my God, man, calm down a bit, eh, will you? Jesus, takes up all my pad and all my ink. I'm going to start charging you for ink. And we move on to another friend of mine, Playtendo Guy, who did a fantastic video, one that I really, really enjoyed. It was what has happened to modern movies, because he's gone to the movies and he's listened to people as they've come out and actually asked the question to a couple of people, what did you think of the movie? And the general consensus is it's okay. And he was talking about the fact that when we talk about movies of the 80s and so forth, we come out and go, that was brilliant, or that was bad, or whatever, right? We're more decisive about what we think of it. And when we come out of movies now, it's always, I mean, it's okay, it's entertaining. Why are we not excited anymore? So it was a great little video, little discussion, fantastic. Moving on, definitely go and look at Playtendo Go, by the way. His name's Pete. Fantastic channel. We move to yet another fantastic channel. Look, Mondo Channel Movies, who I've told you is my go-to guy really for about horror, because I don't have too many outlets for horror. And he's done, my God, he didn't do much last week, but he did this week. Vinegar Syndrome, his March 2025 subscriber films he's got this month. 88 films, 2 films, Dark Night of the Scarecrow and Short Night of the Dolls. 2 films that from 88 films, which look absolutely great. The slip covers look wonderful. And then he showed off the book that I got the film I got last week, which is the Four-Sided Triangle, which is another one of those Hammer Horror 4K restorations, which started off with Captain Kronos literally only a month or so back. This one is not quite so big, but it's no way is it any less quality in it. It's absolutely fantastic. So lots to see when you go and see Mondo Chanovic Movies. Then you got Through the Lens. Through the Lens has done some stuff this week, and he's done a stonking video, Snow White Stinks. Well, I think you know, basically, if you're watching that, what he thought of that film. But he's also done a pondering sort of like video, which was the show that might be the next big thing. So he started to watch a TV show, and he's saying, ooh, is this actually going to be fantastic? Could this be the next big thing that everybody's talking about? Brilliant. Love those. Anything that introduces you to something new. Brilliant. And then there's that guy that I talk about that I don't watch all the time, but he's pretty good. And it's Dan Monroe. His channel's called Dan Monroe Movies, Music and Monsters. And he did a pondering question, whatever happened to the greatest American hero, which was a TV series that I watched actually, late sort of like 70s, I think, early 80s. It came over here quite late though, because it was an American show and wasn't imported very quickly. But I remember watching it and thinking, that's quite good, really. Enjoyed that. And then the last bit we've got is Game Tech and YouTube, which is mostly my friends that are members of my Discord or Mainmeister's Discord, or people that I've known and I've chatted to, and have a huge fondness to their channels. You got Dan the Rabbit Hole, as you know, who commented earlier. He did a couple of videos this week. Atari 2600, a game called Course Blade, which is a homebrew game, which looked absolutely stunning when you consider what the Atari 2600 can do. He did one that's sort of baffling to me because I never played it as a role-playing game, but it's called Star Frontiers. This is old-style tabletop role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons. And it was, what did you base your Yarzians on, which is a race. So I like listening to them, but I don't really get what it means because I never played the game. But I can get my head around it just. And then he got himself another one of those new wave toys arcade replicas. This time it was 1943, which he was so happy to get because he bought the 1942 version. And it wasn't the same sort of design as all his others. And when you get 1943, you also get 1942. So he can basically replace his model, and he much prefers this 1943 model over the old one. So that was brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's a lot there for you to comprehend. And each week there are 2 to 3 videos. He doesn't let you down. It's amazing. And then we get to Robert's Retro Gaming, and what can I say? My God, how much output does this guy do? He is the 8-bit Atari royalty, is what I usually call him. Absolutely fantastic. So what's he done this week? Well, he's done Minecraft. He's been playing that. He's done episodes 133 and 134. My God, man. Minecraft. Up to 134 in episodes. It's almost as many as my blog, man. Jesus. And I've been doing that for 3 years. No Man's Sky, episode 30. So we're still relatively early in that one compared to Minecraft. No lacking quality, though, on that one. Then you've got, on the Spectrum, he played Space Harrier. That's absolutely fantastic because seeing anybody, an American in particular... Oh, just bear with me. Hello, so that was the nurse that's just come through, so apologies again. But we got to the Spectrum playing Space Harrier, and it's great to see my friends, especially people that are abroad, playing a very British rendition on a British type of machine like the Sinclair Spectrum. So it's always amusing to that. And then his Atari 8-bit games he played this week were Karmic Caverns, Telephone Terror, and Busy Baby. Um, really challenging games, especially Busy Baby. I could see him getting quite frustrated with that one, so it's quite fun. Robert's Retro Gaming, quality all the way along, definitely worth a look. If you can, please subscribe. Absolutely, I don't think you'll be disappointed. We move to Steve's Gaming, and oh my god, man, again, bastard, it ain't your channel, too good. It's just the salute I have to do. It's the law. He's done all of these: Dragon's Dogma 2, a first look; Home Soft Discs 48 and 50, that's for the Atari 8-bits; a game called Jam, plus a little chat about his channel, which is interesting because it's talking a little bit about where he's going to be going shortly in regards to some content he's doing. BBC Games Not Played, episode 12. Some early Amiga games, which you mentioned my name a couple of times in there. I have to say something as an answer to him there, because he said, "Close your ears, Del. I'm going to talk about Defender of the Crown." Right? But he actually admits that he didn't get his Amiga until the late 80s. You got to remember that I bought my Amiga 1985, right? No later than January 86. Defender of the Crown was and is easily recognized as being one of those games that actually made people buy the Amiga. He said it was boring. What you have to understand is that there's 3 or 4 years between when that game came out and possibly when he was playing. It is a game of Risk. That's all it is. It's the board game Risk with nice graphics. So it can be a bit boring. But what you have to understand is it was so state of the art when it came out. Hadn't seen, I mean, I still think that actually that the Commodore 64 one that came out a year later is actually a better game. And the Atari ST had more development work done on it. So again, a better version. But what you have to understand is it came out first. And it was actually outstanding. I mean, the sound, the graphics, it was all mini little games, but it was just stunning. And I will always have a fondness for it. It's amazing how nostalgia can make you feel that way. I understand there's going to be less nostalgia for somebody that looks at it much later. Much later on, we'd moved on. We were playing Star Glider and Star Glider 2 and Elite had filled in graphics now and all of that sort of stuff. And then when you look at Defender of the Crown, it looks tired. Well, yeah, a couple of years, I would play Defender of the Crown over the Amiga version of Marble Madness, and that's saying something, right? I love Marble Madness, and it's a cracking game, and it's pretty much arcade there. I'd still play Defender of the Crown. And that's just me. And then he played an Atari 2600 game called Stage Fiend, which I laughed out loud all the way through. The amount of deaths in that game. Steve dies the best. The way he dies, amazing. And what I mean by that is the expletives that come out of his mouth when he dies just makes me chortle. Now, he did mention a game, by the way, in the Amiga section as well, a game called Mind Walker. I will be doing a view of that game in its entirety. When I first played it, what I thought about it, what you're supposed to do, how you play it, all of that sort of stuff. Because that game actually came with my Kickstart Workbench discs in a folder inside the machine itself. That's how I got that game. And so from my point of view, it was the very first thing really I saw on the Amiga other than Workbench. So I have a special bond with that game. And I spoke to Jeff Minter in the Zap event, and he remembers playing it and saying he liked it back then. It's one of those things where it looks bloody awful, sounds average and tinkly, piddly, poddly, blips and blobs. But you got to remember again, it's what you first loaded up and what impression you got from it. And I was just in awe of it. I thought it was brilliant. Traveling through your brain, killing off enemies attacking your brain, finding the cancer inside your brain, destroying it. Brilliant. That's why it's called Mindwalker. Loved it. Anyway, Steve's Gaming. What can I say? Absolutely fantastic chap. A joy to talk to. Such a nice, polite person. Dies the best in any YouTube channel you'll come across in your life. Fantastic guy. Please go and like, look, and all the rest of it with that. Colin Jones, aka Ponder. Oh my God, wasn't he right in regards to how many videos he brought out this week? So he did a vlog, episode 84, brilliant. He's assembled a bomb jack arcade machine, hacked and built it, and it's his first attempt at doing so. And he's so pleased with his efforts that he now wants to put it in something, something where he can stand it and play it when he needs to. And he's looking for a racking system that will try and do it. I tried to help, got a little bit ridiculed for it, but maybe he'll come across what you want. But if you can help, please join those discords that are in the description of this video, and have see if you can find the article in our Discord and see if you can help him. Doesn't want to spend too much, doesn't want to buy a cabinet, just wants to be able to assemble it, disassemble it, or so thin it's something that you can just squeeze against the wall somewhere. He's doing a Mainmeister high score kerfuffle game for Donkey Kong 3, the arcade game. He's doing a Tubers high score challenge called Jump Bug. Absolutely fantastic. Like I say, there's 4 videos. Definitely go and have a look. There's regular content coming out from Collins. So knowledgeable, such a nice guy. And then we turned to 20th Century Gaming, who did 2 videos this week. He did a C64 live of Trolley Wally and the Caverns of Siluk, done by the same coder. Brilliant. That lasted a couple of hours. It was really good. You can catch up on the live through YouTube, no problems, on the 20th Century Gaming's channel. And he also did one last night for Gravitron 2, which if you love Thrust, you'd get one heck of a kick out of. Unfortunately, it ended quite abruptly because he is a family man, and therefore sometimes you are dragged away, like I've been doing with this particular blog, when the occupational health team have turned up. And then we've got my old mate Mainmeister, who's done such a lot this week. He's done Sunday night live stream, which was last Sunday. He did Sega Mega Drive shoot 'em ups. He did a video of his time at Bury Arcade, which was last weekend, and he showed off a video where he was playing a football game with his friend Flanagan. So it was called Flanagan versus Mainmeister Match 3, because it's the 3rd time they've played this football game together, and the 3rd time when they've played 3 games to see who is the ultimate victorious player. I won't ruin it for you. An absolute entertaining watch. And then he did a Friday waffle, and he called me up and said, could you help me with my waffle? For which I always wanted to say yes, but it is difficult now with my mother. So I made sure my mother was comfortable. And I did tell Mainmeister I'm gladly helped, but I might have to be called away several times during your blog. And luckily, it went swimmingly. That was absolutely fantastic, which gives me high hopes for going back and doing Ian Hill, The Ramblings 50th anniversary episode between us both. And that's the end of the written part of the blog, which means that we get to the last sort of section, which is what I've bought this week. So let's get the overhead cam back on. and you'll see this big behemoth of a box of Doctor Who Invasion Earth, and you'll probably ask yourself, why is a film in a bloody big box like this? Well, to be quite honest, it's a collector's edition where you not only get the film in 4K and some art cards, but you also get the record. Now, I bought this in record and 4K form for the very first Doctor Who, which was Doctor Who and the Daleks. This is the sequel to Doctor Who Daleks Invasion of Earth. Both of those record sets I never bought at full price because when they first came out, they were £75. And Amazon have now reduced this after 2 years down to £35. And it only happened this week. So I've now got both of them, which makes me very happy because £35 I think is certainly acceptable to me. What other stuff have we got here? So we've got some steelbooks. Here we are. We've got the steelbook of Disney's Mufasa, The Lion King. An okay-ish steelbook. It's pretty enough. Not really anything innovative there. Look, I mean, no spot glossing and all that sort of stuff. It's shy, you know. It's a standard type of steelbook, and that one came out okay. Then we've got a film that I didn't enjoy, but must have because it's part of my collection, and that is Kraven the Hunter, which is a Spider-Man villain that Sony have brought out just because they've got the license and they need to keep it, so they brought out a film. It really isn't a fantastic film at all. In fact, it's pretty poor, but it is Spider-Man, so of course it was a pre-order for me. Then we get to an oldish type film, but no less a goodie. Again, not a fantastic design for the cover, although it's fine. It's Jodie Foster in the film Panic Room. It's the steelbook. As you can see, they've just used the letters and a still picture behind it and just made it transparent so you can see the picture behind. But it's all about, remember, it's all about the film, right? So I could have bought this as a standard edition, but if there's a steelbook, why not buy it as a steelbook? There's nothing wrong with that. So that's great. And then this next one I took a punt at. I've never watched this Star Trek series, but it came up on pre-order and it's the whole thing in a steelbook. So two things, it's Star Trek and it's the whole thing, right? And of course it's a steelbook, so it's free. And it's Star Trek Lower Decks, the complete series. It's Blu-ray, not 4K, but it is 2 steelbooks in a nice case. And I thought to myself, well, at least I've got it all, you know? Nothing much more to say about that. And we therefore then get back to the camera. And normally this is where I would say, here's some trailers. But as you know, things are going on with my mum at the moment, and I've been passed back and forth while doing this blog. And it's gotten to the point where I haven't got anything prepared here. Now, I did think to myself, if I had time, I'd pause this, go away, do some trailers, edit it together, and put it at the end. But I don't think I'm just going to have time on Mother's Day. So I hope you don't mind me just saying, please treat your mother every day. But if you are in the UK, make sure that you have gone out and treated your mother. Take her somewhere, buy her a meal, get her anything, flowers, chocolates, make her feel special. She brought you into this world and looked after you, you know, burped you, you know, wiped your ass. You know what I mean? All of that stuff. You've got to respect that. And I respect it even more where my mother currently is health-wise. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you for all the kind messages that everybody has given me about my mother. The occupational health people have been absolutely fantastic. I want to verbally say that in my blog. Things that are going on with my sister will get resolved. There's so much that I'm learning. It's going to be a difficult week again because I go back to work and there's very little time. So that's the other thing that I need to say, really, and that is respect the time that you've got. I'm hoping to have more content coming out this week if I can. Being as the clocks have moved forward, it will be lighter when I finish work, so I should have more time to do that. And so I'm going to say salute and say thanks for watching this video. I hope you like it. If you do and you fancy writing a comment, please do so. With that, I'm going to say salute as I always do. It'll be different next week. Hopefully I'll have some trailers and a better, more prep for you. And I'll have some news about my mum. And we'll continue to move forward through this year. Thanks very much. On to the next one. Salute. Bye-bye.